Hello and welcome to Living as Is. I'm Shar, autistic, self aware, and awakening. So, what I'm looking at today is the autistic and spiritual understanding. And within this, I'm looking for spiritual as more of a connection to being seen as a language all on its own. A language coming from feeling and sensing the world as a whole, both on the inside and the outside. As an autistic, feeling my way into the spiritual came as second nature. And I was feeling this through my life. I was feeling my way through life, with each massive change in my life, small change in my life, big change, with every change in my life. So there's this relationship we have with life. And I kind of feel we need to ask ourselves some questions in this relationship with life. Where do we choose to live? Do we look towards life being open with the experiences you find there? Or do you close off, choosing to keep yourself shuttered away from the world? It's right here I find myself opening to the world through the access of being spiritual, holding no limitations to what I may discover there, either coming from myself or from the world at large around myself. And it's kind of from here where I have a belief it's the same for other autistics. And within material I've read covering the lives of autistics, they've mentioned this feeling and sensing of nature. And it's through those words of these other autistics and listening to what their expression within myself, I feel this related sense of it being spiritual. Now, sometimes spiritual can be lumped in with religion. However, I see religion as being a set of beliefs that are structured, whereas spiritual is more of a personal sense of feeling, which I feel is then structured within the feelings of the individual. But they're not structured in a sense that they're written down and here is your guide for your life. These feelings will change, these feelings will adjust, which means the structure adjusts, which means the structure changes. That's what makes it natural. That's what makes it feel like nature. That's what makes it spiritual. So it's a personal thing. It's a personal coming from what is felt within. And then you have influences or you have guidances coming from outside and around. There are, for myself, these feelings can in many ways synchronize themselves with other people. And they can do so in both spoken and unspoken ways. Thereby, these people may start associating themselves together. But, let me stress, in this association, It doesn't necessarily mean that they're creating an organized belief system or they're creating an organized association. That may happen, but it doesn't mean it will. And that's because the nature towards feeling and sensing is so individual. Over time, in myself, I built a kind of unique feeling, which was like a coming together, where what is within myself, felt and seen as self, was what was felt and seen outside of self, in nature, in animals, in the heart presence of other people when people allow it to be felt. That for myself is the coming together. That was the coming together for myself. Now, this feeling of and being spiritual, this feeling of being spiritual, I perceive it as a two for one. You get this opening, which definitely for myself comes over as a heart opening, as the heart is opening. And then you have this feeling, this outer feeling of heart coming from all around you, coming into you from all around you. As these two blend and grow, expand, and become more, there's a definite sense of being able to open to the world. It's like it's giving you the space to be in the world. Now, perhaps the perception of heart coming from outside, coming towards you from outside, perhaps it's based on the feeling coming from within self. But is this a bad thing? Especially if you grow the perception of what is self, what is life. The perception of all that is. As an autistic, early life was, in adult terms, shit. There were no terms I felt I could use. It was just confusion most of the time. However, lying within this, there lay a feeling of connection. Only it just wasn't nameable. This feeling gave space to step back, allow others to be whatever they wanted to be, even if they never allowed myself to be. It was all coming from an unfelt sense of connection. I tried the spiritualist church. It felt similar to Christianity, as well as being the same for Buddhism. I've no real feeling or dislike towards organized systems. I do feel they offer something for people, especially as in the world there are people that like to have systems, belief systems, which provide a concrete feeling of direction. Inside all of these feeling and senses taking place for myself, there came this path towards self-analysis. In some cases, it felt like a savior, but not a savior as in a Christ or as in a priest or a Buddha or a saint or a deity. Nothing like that. It was savior as in saving me. Feeling as it created my own doorway to not only understanding the world, but opening to myself. Adding to it, coming to understand the expression of being spiritual. It really feels as if this had been experienced all my life, as natural as grass growing. There's also definite sense of freedom. A freedom within being spiritual that I never felt or experienced within any organized system. Freedom is a very important word for myself. To feel free and be able to express without fear of contradiction. It's through this sensed feeling of freedom where my spiritual nature lives and thrives. It's also where I feel for the autistic individual to develop their understanding towards the sense of spiritual nature may provide them with a language connecting to a wider sense of expression. Throughout life, seeing the actions of others and not understanding, or seeing those actions and interpreting the next step, always left me feeling out of place. Here, I arrive at a knowing that is built over time for myself, and this knowing being that I had a language I never knew I had. I called it psychic because at the time there were no other words I could use at the time. I didn't have the understanding I had now. And so I look at this now and I'm thinking, what if it was simply my spiritual nature felt through the sensitivities of being autistic? Or as some folks like to say, being neurodivergent. Which would mean for myself, there's a world filled with sensitivities, with sensitives. People using a way of seeing, sensing, feeling, and expressing, which I'm relating as spiritual. And they may not be aware of this spiritual sensing of life and living. From the forums I've been in, there certainly is a good amount of expression, which would actually confirm all I'm perceiving. Okay, I'm going to read a couple of pieces from Autism and the Edges of the Known World by Olga Bogdashina. For our ignorance does not entitle us to say what may be natural or not. If telepathy does not square at all well with our preconceived notions, it may be more true that our preconceived notions are false than that telepathy is fictitious. We must overcome this prejudice and seek to make others set aside. Telepathy and subconscious mental life combine to make us realize the wonder of the soul. It is not spatial, it is spiritual. Bergson, cited in Gunn, 1920. Now, one more thing by Stillman. Children and animals, as purest of innocence, often perceive spiritual experiences only because they haven't been conditioned not to. The person with autism may simply not be fully cognizant of her very special gift and may assume that everyone communicates in this way. Stillman, 2006. Now, in the first piece I quoted there, Bergson was looking at telepathy and languages that aren't spoken. For myself, I see being spiritual in nature as an unspoken language, one which we can grow into and be a part of in terms of the natures of others who are spiritual. We grow into a community, we grow into being a part of. On a final note, I don't perceive it as my place to be telling people what to think or do. I've been hunting for an expression for myself to use all my life. Over time, coming to understand my autism and the understanding of being spiritual, it's like a coming home. I believe there are many autistic people that feel and sense the world in a very clear and open way. And they use what I'm calling being spiritual as this language. They just haven't come to the perceiving of the words. And as I say, it's not my place to tell people what to think or do. But this, I feel, is quite a possibility. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying till the end. Much appreciated. I'd like to grow the channel. I'd like to expand. So please click like, click subscribe, and be daring. Click to be notified so you can grab the next video when it comes out. Thank you for being a part of everything. Thank you. Blessings to you all.